Mariners make Kevin Seitzer, who's the new hitting coach. Does this matter? Does it mean anything? What was your takeaway from it?
I was surprised that I didn't even know that he had not re-upped with the Braves. I guess they parted ways with him. Maybe it was just working with Jared Kelnick that crushed him in his hopes and dreams. I don't know. No, look, he's been around. He's an established guy. I think, to me, the bigger news, and we'd sort of known this, we hadn't got the official title and everything, but we'd known that Edgar was going to stick around, and just kind of, as he's the director of hitting strategy and all that other stuff, the fancy title that they have, I think that's the most important aspect. I mean, because he's still going to be the overriding philosophy of all of this, and Seitzer and Bobby Magallanes, I think is how you say his last name. They're going to still kind of, I wouldn't say report, but that's the structure. He's going to be the overriding leader of it all, the strategy guy, and then those guys work for him. I mean, to me, the hitting guys are all, whether they know the swings and all that other stuff. I think the big part is Edgar's message to certain players on the team, specifically the center fielder. I think that continuity is big for the team moving forward. Who they have implemented on a daily basis, that's important, but not the overriding theme of having Edgar there and having Edgar kind of put his stamp on their hitting philosophy.
After you're done shoveling snow, Divish with us there in Havre, Montana, you crawl inside by the warm fireplace. You open your computer, you work on your database, and you sharpen the numbers. With Rojas being non-tendered, some of the other moves, what does the Mariners' budget look like right now?
So that's funny, and at one point, I think my drinking was escalated by Adam Jute's tweet that, they had $16 million to play with. And, then Lyle and all his buddies on Mariner, all the creators on Mariners Twitter just lose their mind and then freak out. To me, they've always going to be around 150 to 155 as the budget. That's the overall. If you look back over the years, they've kind of gone up incrementally 5 to 10 million since the step back. I think that's kind of what we're going to see. I don't think it's a significant amount of money that they're going to go up, and I don't know that anybody should be surprised by it. So that 150 threshold or so. I mean, that's you're giving yourself about 15 million to play with to try and find two spots, which could be difficult. But yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. I don't see them going like 160 or even 170. I think 150 is kind of their comfort level. Maybe if there's a player out there that stretches it beyond, but really too, they want to be able to have some flexibility at the deadline too, if they're in it to add guys. So I don't think it'll be a significant increase, and all the reporting and all the people we've talked to said that that's kind of where they're at. Is they're going to be about the 150 mark, which roughly gives them about 15 million to play with.
And just so I understand, because what I was guessing, that 15 million is after you hand out the arbitration raises.
Yeah, that's post arbitration.
Okay, so everybody's going to get paid, gets paid, and then you've got 15 million, and
including Randy Rosarena. You including Randy in that?
Including Randy.
Okay.
Yeah, including Randy.
So you still got to deal with first, second, and short, or first, second, and third, rather.
Yeah, I mean,
it seems like a lot.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It doesn't. It's like when I was in college, and you're looking at Miller Lite versus Keystone Light, and you've got $10 in your pocket. You're like, okay, well, guess
Keybones it is.
Keystone Light.
Yeah. Grab some
30
Keybones.
bones for 8 bones. Yeah, 30 bones for 8 bones.
Yeah.
And just regret your life the next day. So, but that's where they're at, and I don't, I think that there may be some wiggle room. But that with 15 million or maybe even up to 18 million, if you got real kind of, if you can lowball some guys in your arbitration, that's Justin, you go get Justin Turner or Carlos Santana, that knocks at least 5 million out of that budget. And then you're down to 10 million to get 2 guys. That's why I think the trade route is going to be something that's real important for them, is going by a trade. For at least one of those spots.
Okay.
So I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked about the other infield spots are not good. In terms of the free agent market, there's nothing out there that really moves the needle.
Well, so again, that's why I got to Nico Heerer's name, not because I think he's the perfect player, but because hey, if you want to run and be athletic and all the things that they showed in the final 6 weeks last year, who's the most athletic player potentially available this year in the infield? It's Nico Herer. So do you go out and try to make a deal and try to bring him in? Do you give up a little bit more than you ordinarily would to try to get the Cubs to pay down some of that salary? How would you handle that?
Yeah, that's what you're going to run into with Herer, is because he does get up there a little bit in arbitration numbers, and he's going to get a little bit more expensive, and that's part of the reason why the Cubs may be looking to move him. Yeah, that's somebody you look at because he is athletic. I mean, you give up on Jordan Westburg of the Orioles. They still need pitching. Maybe you can swing a deal there. He's pretty athletic. He can hit. I mean, even somebody like Gavin Lux, who's getting a little bit more expensive, but the Dodgers need pitching. They're so desperate for starting pitching in some way. And, they can't just go out and buy everybody, though I think they'll probably buy Roki Sasaki. Sorry, Lyle. You can't just go out and get the pitching that they want to fill out a rotation. So maybe Gavin Lux is available because they do have some prospects in the minor leagues that, can fill that spot, or they feel like they can fill that spot with somebody else. So, yeah, they're going to have to be creative in their thinking on how they do stuff, and maybe they do have to give up more. Maybe you have to sweeten the deal, like if you want Nico Herer with a lower level prospect to get some salary relief, because you're still projecting too. It's not about just this year. There's money for next year, and that's every move they consider has to also not just be about the payroll that costs them this year, but the payroll it's going to cost them next year, because the arbitration guys get a little bit more expensive next year. Logan Gilbert, what is he, 8.1 or projected at 8.1? If he posts any sort of season like he had this year, we're talking $12 million probably next year, for the next season. So it's like, how do you manage that budget?
Okay. So you're going to trade a pitcher? I mean, like, this is what Shannon and I ended up debating, because if you're trying to slice through those constraints and you truly want to get better offensively, do you trade a pitcher? One of your 5 starters from last year, not just an Emerson Hancock or a Logan Evans. Do you trade one of your 5 guys?
Yeah, you might have to start looking at Plan Z, because the budgets force you past A, B, C, D, E, F, and all the way through the alphabet. You may have to look at Plan Z. I think their biggest fear is whatever bat they get for trading a pitcher won't provide enough impact to offset that pitcher. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, say they trade Bryce Miller, whatever bat they were able to get, it wouldn't provide enough, because it's not an aircraft carrier, middle of the lineup guy. You're filling second base, third base, probably not elite hitter. I know that the Boston tried to shop in Tristan Casas, and they kind of politely said no. They weren't really interested in that hitter for one of their main guys. So, who do they offer? It's all about what they can get. If they're going to give up Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, any of those guys, they're going to want top dollar. They're going to want top value from prospect return, or not prospect return, but major league value in return. And it can't be a double-A guy that you're hoping can do it. It has to be somebody that's shown he can do it. I mean, I don't even know that Alec Boehm fits that category, because he's been so up and down, and because the questions about work ethic, intensity, all that other stuff. I'm thinking, if you're going to have to go Plan Z, you better get somebody real, or if not, then stick with your 5 starters and hope you can patchwork your offense together and get bounced back from a lot of guys, because at least that the starting pitching can perform. It can perform at T-Mobile Park. It can perform, it can handle the rigors of a season. So I think that's what they have to ask themselves. Is the value that they're going to get back if they trade one of those starting pitchers enough to push their offense to another level? And do they trust Logan Evans and Brandon Garcia enough that they could run with one of those guys along with Emerson Hancock?
So there's nobody better to answer this question. Cal Raleigh and I now share the same agency, Excel Sports Agency, no longer with Scott Boras. Did you read anything into that maybe change in agency could mean an extension here in Seattle?
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt the situation, because I think Scott is so adamant about, I went against signing extensions. Talking with some sources, it just was something that Cal had started considering in the last few months of the season. And just, conversations, I think, maybe not seeing eye to eye with what Cal really wants versus what Scott might think. And I think with Scott, what his focus so often is in the current free agent market, and Cal's not there yet. So I think that's another thing. I don't think Cal wants arbitration to be a dogfight, or a fight. I think he wants to get it done and get a salary that he thinks is fair and be done with it. I think any extension, when I've asked him about it, it's always been, I want something fair. And I do think your agency will listen on extensions, but the agent's job is to get the best deal for the player. And so I know I'd probably fire your agent for having to go back and work with Salk, but at the same time,
Hey, how dare you?
It's